What is going on, everybody? IronSmithy here, back with another Ashes of Creation video. As you guys may have seen my upload yesterday, we talked about the release of the verbal non-disclosure agreement, and today we're going to be talking about the node system. We're going to use some of that freedom to be able to talk about the alpha process, what I saw last weekend and everything like that. We're going to dive deeper into the node since this is such a big part of the game. I wanted to make this a separate video and break it down into more detail to give you guys a clearer picture of what to expect when it comes to nodes and developing them and citizenship and everything along those lines. Without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. So here we go. Let's start talking about the nodes. First off, nodes are assigned one of 4 node types, each of which contain unique specializations. We will be able to identify the type of nodes at its first stage of development, the expedition, based on the NPCs that we see within their encampments. Divine nodes will be focused on faith and skill or equipment augments, and will be represented by priests at the expedition stage, where economic nodes will be focused on trading and merchant-related content, represented by merchants. Military nodes will focus on combat and class training, represented by guards in their encampments, and scientific nodes will focus on the artisans and construction, represented by scholars at their encampments. So based on what you see when you first approach the encampment, if they're laid out with guards, you know that's going to be a military encampment or a military node. As you level it up, it's going to focus more around combat and your class training and everything like that. Whereas if you come up to an encampment, you see the merchants there, then you know that that's going to be an economic hub as we continue to level up that node. So then you get the opportunity to make the decision based on what you see at the earliest stages. Do you want to keep focusing on this node, or do you and your guild, let's say, want to go and focus on a different guild that's going to have more of an impact to you and what you plan to do and how you want to shape the game around you? Node types are predetermined and are the same across all servers. So a node's type is static. It doesn't change based on the node's advancement or destruction. So for an example, if you have a level 4 scientific node and it gets destroyed in a siege, it will go back to a level 0 scientific node. It's not going to change to a military node or to a economic node. It's always going to stay the same per server. The benefit of the node, like they have superpowers, essentially, is the word that they're using right now. But essentially, it's an ultimate ability that becomes unlocked when the node reaches level 6, the Metropolis stage. So divine node, at this time, we do not know what that benefit is going to be. But an economic node, once they reach the Metropolis stage, they are going to gain the ability called linked economy. So any economic node with this power unlocked shares its auction house listings with all the others, meaning that the items listed in one linked economy node can be bid on from any other linked economy node. And the linked economies can connect the Metropolis and any other vassals belonging to that Metropolis. The linked economy superpower has the potential to create a massive market that spans the entire world, and this will allow players to attain and sell goods with ease, providing those who have access to these economic nodes a faster path to fortune in the lands of Ashes of Creation. Right off the beginning, if you focus on economy, you're going to be able to sort of get rich quick, essentially, compared to if you focus on a military node or a scientific node. That being said, the military nodes enable bounty hunters and reduce the duration of corruption. Corruption is a mechanic in the game that we'll dive into in another video, but essentially it is a state that you can enter based on how active you are at killing other players. The more players you kill, especially if their names are in green, it will put you into a red state or a corrupted state, which will affect your gameplay if you are to stay in that state. But if you have a military node, you can reduce the duration of the corruption, get yourself back into good standing, and then it also unlocks bounty hunters, which we'll touch again in a later video. And then scientific nodes that have reached the Metropolis stage unlocks the teleportation power, which is significant in Ashes of Creation since there is not a lot of ways to fast travel. Citizens of Metropolis scientific nodes may teleport between the Metropolis and any of its vassal nodes, regardless of the stage of that vassal node, so long as the vassal node is not at war. Citizen and vassal nodes may teleport to their Metropolis node and back. And if there are multiple scientific Metropolis, then an airship will provide faster travel between those scientific Metropolis for citizens of those nodes and their vassal nodes, so long as the metropolis are not at war. This will allow citizens and vassals of scientific metropolises to do things more quickly than others. As fast travel is limited in Ashes of Creation, they'll be able to exchange goods and information with ease and get to locations in the world at a quicker speed in order to gather crafting materials and create recipes, as well as participate in limited time events faster than the other nodes because of the ability to teleport and fast travel, being able to get there first above the other nodes. The next thing we're going to dive into now is zones of influence. The main thing that differentiates Ashes of Creation from other MMOs is that they have a living, breathing, reactive world. This world is separated into zones, which are then separated to what are called nodes. Nodes are sort of invisible zones of influence that listen to everything that the player does. So as a player gains experience from killing things, doing quests, raiding, dungeons, crafting, and so on, the node is also gaining that experience. Once the node gains enough experience, it then levels up and then starts to attract NPCs to it. Each node can form into towns, but are limited by their neighbors. The nodes have different levels of advancement, and there are only so many of each level. Think of this as advanced settlements needing more elbow room. Nodes encompass more land as they grow and will require more effort to be sustained. This system is the main driver for change in the world because it creates scarcity. As nodes advance in stages of growth, they will lock out neighboring nodes from progressing and will absorb their zones of influence. There is not a space anywhere where you can move and do something and no node will gain experience for it. The node stages, as we had mentioned in our previous video, has 7 stages of advancement with experience thresholds for each stage. When a node reaches the experience required for its current stage, it advances to the next stage, as you can see in the picture above. So it's going to start with the wilderness, then we're going to move to the expedition, the encampment, village, town, city, metropolis being the final stage. So once you get to village, that's when things start getting really interesting, and you're going to see why a little bit further in the video here. The development area of a node is where civilization will appear as the node advances. As the node stages increase, different buildings, NPCs, and services will become available in the development area. The higher the node stage, the more complex and populated the development area becomes, and more quests and opportunities for advancement will arise. The look of the town will be determined by several factors, including the environment and the location of the node type being military, economic, etc., and the race that contributed the highest percentage to the node's advancement will alter the racial appearance of the buildings and NPCs. The style and culture could change at every stage, as the rest is determined by the elected mayor. So what I mean by the style and culture could change at every stage is that, let's say, you know, from stage 2 to stage 3, where we go into a village, let's say the race that contributed the most was the dwarves. So the buildings will have a dwarven look and feel to them. The NPCs will be dwarven based. But let's say from stage 3 to stage 4, as we go up to a town, all of a sudden there's a higher population of elves or humans that have been progressing that node along. Now that town that once was dwarven based will now shift into like an elven or human based town, aesthetically and NPC wise, which I think is really, really unique, and it's going to be really cool to see how these progress. And even in the alpha stages, we didn't see too much of this because there was only the 3 races, but we did see nodes upgrade to like the village level. We got to see how much that encompassed, and the different stages are so significant, and to see that growth and to be able to see, you know, what you've done in these areas actually contribute to the town is very, very satisfying as an MMO player, for like immersion and backing like the story and the lore, which we're not going to talk about right now, not to ruin anything for you guys, but just how everything sort of develops throughout the game, and you actually feel like you've done something to shape the world, and that is something that for me is very attractive. So as we said, as you level up your main nodes, once they get to level 3, they become a village, they start to enslave nearby nodes, converting them into what they call vassal nodes. Vassal nodes must remain at least 1 stage below their parent node. and they first apply any experience owed to their own deficit, and then they will apply all their excess experience to the parent node. So essentially, if you leave a node or a zone of influence for a vassal node, it will start creating a deficit of experience that it needs to maintain its level or its stage. So it will always fill that experience first to make sure that it stays on par. And then once it's at its max, meaning that it can't level up because the parent node is restricting it, it will then send all the experience to the parent node. And then once the parent node levels up, the vassal node will be able to level up again after that. Now, vassals are subject to the government, alliance, wars, taxes, and trade of their parent node, and are able to receive federal aid from them as well. So you have your parent node that encompasses everything around it. It'll encompass the vassals. The vassals can then, once they get to level 3, can have some vassals as well. So there's a very complex overlapping structure that is very driven by that parent node. So the guilds, the organizations, the groups that get control over that become mayor, that get to start determining that, is going to play a huge factor in the entire game. And that's where these castle sieges for the shifts of power and everything like that are going to be so significant in this game. And I'm so stoked to see what that looks like. We're going to cover sieges in another video once we have a little more information on that, and once I get to actually test it a little bit. We will probably even be streaming some siege stuff in the near future. But that is something, that's how you're going to see these huge power shifts in this game. And I think it is going to be so cool to see how it all goes down, how the world's going to be ever changing as power shifts from one guild or one organization, one alliance to another, and how the vassals and how the parent nodes end up being developed, and how the world is going to take shape is something that is super cool. That's why I wanted to make a video just about the node system that we're talking about today. The next thing is going to be within a stage 4 town, city, or metropolis. So stage 4, 5, or 6 node, they're going to have an area called a trophy park. So a trophy park is going to have available spots for trophies. These trophies are going to show character names of players who are the first to complete world bosses and dungeon bosses that were spawned as a result of the development of that particular node. There will be server announcements and achievements that are designed to encourage groups to experience this new content. And I think that is so huge. I mean, coming from a game like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 and stuff like that, mostly World of Warcraft I want to focus on, though, because that's where I spent the majority of my MMORPG time. You know, you were able to put up trophies like Onyxia and stuff like that, but there was no name associated to it. There was you would have a server announcement that Onyxia was slain or whatever, but there was nothing really significant or tied to any like one person or one guild or anything like that. And I think having that recognition in game, for one, it's going to allow for more immersion into the game. It's going to promote people to try to push to get those like world firsts, you know, the world bosses down. And I think it's a really neat thing that they've added. It's going to give you that recognition for doing something and for completing it first, that everybody in that town will have the ability to go see. And that's something really unique that I'm really intrigued to see. The last thing that we're going to talk about today is the buildings that are available. We're not going to dive too deep into this, but essentially you have everything from like the academy to alchemists, apartments, armories, auction houses, barracks, blacksmiths, city halls, colleges, emporiums, exchanges, etc., etc. You can see it all on the image above right now. And these are going to be buildings that will develop over time. Some of these will have to be built by the mayor or the node leadership, if you will, which will be elected. And we're going to dive into that in a completely separate video as well, because there's so much to the leadership section of a node. So we're going to dive into that in a future video. We're going to dive into player housing in a future video as well. I will tell you right now, from my experience in Alpha 1, when a town or when a node levels up to a village, so the tier 3, it appeared like there was about, I didn't count them, but I would say there was about 12 to 15 houses that were available to players right at the beginning once it gets up. But it is like a mad rush to try to buy up these houses, because once they're bought, they're not instanced. in Alpha 1. This might be subject to change later, but in Alpha 1, once you purchase them, they weren't available for purchase for anybody else. And the only way to gain citizenship to the node is by having housing or a freehold or something in place to be able to claim citizenship within that node. All right, so nodes, I mean, they're massive. It is going to be such a huge part of this game, of the world development, of everything that you do in Ashes of Creation. The nodes are going to be affected in one way or another. There's going to be some massive PvP that's going to go down. There's going to be some huge shifts of power. And it's going to be something that I'm really excited to see. As long as it's done right, as long as alliances are fair, there's a way for everybody to be able to shift power and not just have these superpowers that are able to control everything and nobody can stand toe to toe with them. There has to be that balance that allows, you know, new players to the game to be able to get involved in this kind of stuff, and there has to be that replayability that attracts new players to the game no matter what stage of the journey they choose to join in on Ashes of Creation. So as long as that is done right, as long as the guild system, the alliance system is done fairly, where no matter what stage of the game you're coming in at, you're able to get involved in these sieges, be able to take power from other players, as long as you are proficient enough to do so, it's going to lead to some insane battles, you know, and I don't want to get too far into sieges right now. I am extremely excited for the sieges. But I don't want to divert too far from our main focus here. So the main focus today was the nodes. Overall, I'm extremely excited from it. Being able to see them in Alpha 1 and seeing the progression, it looks so good. It is so satisfying to see, you know, what you've done, what you've contributed actually take shape, and see these like it go from just a plot of land in the wilderness, and then all of a sudden you start seeing a few tents, and you start seeing some NPCs show up, and then the tents get a little bit larger. You get a little bit more tents, a little bit more NPCs, and then finally the village takes place, and you've got like these walls surrounding it, and specific entrances like in and out, and it's defended, and you have buildings and plots of land to buy, and seeing that take place is so satisfying, and it adds just a whole other level of immersion into the game, right? The reason we play these MMORPGs is to immerse ourselves into this world, into this fantasy, essentially. And I think Ashes of Creation does a phenomenal job at that. And this system is, I can't say enough about it. It is so cool. So with that being said, guys, we're not going to take any more of your time. I appreciate it. As always, if you like the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, comment down below any questions that you have, criticisms, anything like that. I go through everyone. I try to reply to everyone. And I'm excited. I'm excited, to say the least. If you guys can't tell already, I'm excited for the future of the game. We still have a long way to go. This is still in a very early stage of alpha, but there's a lot to be excited about. From what I've seen from Alpha 1, from what I've seen from the progress in the last weekend alone, going from the Friday to the Sunday, the difference from Friday to Sunday was night and day. And to be able to see that all take place, and to be able to continue to make these videos, and we're going to continue to break down every aspect, you're going to see that there's a lot of unique things to this game that there isn't anybody else that is providing this level of gameplay that I have yet to find anyways. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. You made it to the end of the video. That means the absolute world to me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I truly appreciate it. I hope you like the videos. We will continue bringing out videos every week, maybe an extra video here and there like we did yesterday for the announcement of the verbal NDA being released. We had to make an extra video for that. So keep an eye on the channel. Make sure to have your notifications turned on. And until the next one, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys in the next video.